We're back, and it's now time for Ask the Doc with Dr. William Whaley, Georgia Cancer Research Center, affiliated with Northside Hospital. I want to thank them for this segment. Dr. Whaley, how are you today?
Great, and yourself?
Okay, you still have, well, you know, I don't want to highlight this, but is that the flag you had on this time last week?
Actually, I think it's a different one, but I have.
You have several, don't you?
Oh, yeah,
we've been together for a while. I think there's several flags.
The little bitty ones and everything. But the reason I'm doing this is that on Veterans Day, your program is going to be done by one of the All-Star panel, and they asked me if I could come down there and be a veteran with them, and I can't. For the other reason is that 11/11 is Sunday. In the 100th year of 11/11 at 11, the World War I Centennial Commission of the state of Georgia, of which I'm a member, is presenting our official presentation to the state at the Atlanta History Center. So I won't be at church, and I won't be there, because I will be staying there. So this is Veterans Day, they're calling it now, on what's that, the second Monday in November or something. But it's a pretty big deal, 11/11. We weren't in World War I but a few months, and we just lost a ton of people. And I think the 100th anniversary is a good time to celebrate it, and there's lots and lots of things you can do, and so
there's a lot of talk.
Yeah.
And for good reason. There's a lot of talk about Korea. And all of it's for good reason. A lot of talk about Vietnam. A lot of talk about World War II.
Yeah.
But you just don't hear.
Great War, yeah.
You don't hear World War I.
Yeah, the Great War.
Right.
The war to end all wars. I tried to get my wife to read an article out in the VFW magazine about why World War I and its peace agreements is really the root of the Middle Eastern wars that are going on now, and the stuff that's going on in China and in what they used to call Indochina. And World War I got really messed up by the politicians. If they'd just all gone home, it'd have been a lot better than trying to chop up the world and create, 15 new countries were created by the end of World War I, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Slovakia, Latvia, all those countries didn't exist, and they were all created by World War I.
I know we have to get into our questions, and we will, but I think if I'm correct, Josh, you can check this. I think if I'm correct, today marks 29 years ago today that the Berlin Wall came down. 29 years ago today, the Berlin Wall came down.
Wow.
And you stop and think.
We're getting old, aren't we?
That's not. I was thinking the same thing, but is that correct? All right. So, but you stop and think about it, and if a young person's 25 today, they were not even born, and I don't know that they understand the magnitude of that wall coming down.
That means over half of our population doesn't know about that.
Exactly.
That's even worse.
So what I'm saying is
much less the Chosin Reservoir or the Battle of the Moose Woods.
Exactly. That's why I bring that up, because if 29 years ago marks the day the wall came down, and somebody that's 28 years old today was not alive when the Berlin Wall was up, and it to me, for Veterans Day, it marks remembering things that changed our lives. These young people have an amazing country, have an amazing opportunity. But how did you get here?
I want to go on a place further. We'll get to aluminum here in a few minutes, and beer for your kidneys, or beer for your horses. Was that it?
I wondered. I read the. Wait a minute. You'll find out in a minute.
Anyway, so I actually was shocked, stunned, amazed. I was talking to one of my nurses who has a master's level degree, is in her mid-30s, and I was talking about the fact that Reconstruction really didn't end until after Franklin Roosevelt. And she said, Reconstruction of what? And I had a damn heart attack. My wife's nephew is the principal of a high school in Arkansas where the Civil War has 1/4 of one page in the entire 12 years of school in history, and there's not even one line, tittle nor jot, about Reconstruction. Well, so much of what's going on in America today is based on that 50 years from 1865 till after Teddy Roosevelt, and all of the evils of segregation and all the rest of that stuff all go back to the period of Reconstruction and what happened, and nobody knows about it. It just shocks me.
I couldn't agree more.
What happened to civics? Sean Hannity was talking about it last night. Civics will teach you to be civil, and then you won't go pound on Tucker Carlson's front door. You won't stand up in front of the president and say, I'm going to challenge you, and snatch that woman's microphone away. I mean, what happened to opening the doors for women and saying, thank you, sir, and appreciate your help and all that? Where'd that go?
Would we like to get on to
Let's go to medical questions.
just ask it. Just ask it. All right, let's start here. And again, we thank Georgia Cancer Research Center, affiliated with Northside Hospital. Is it true that aluminum-based antiperspirants are dangerous and could cause cancer?
Well, I'm going to ask Candace if she remembers a TV program that I never watched, but my children used to watch, and it was called Ghostbusters. Okay? Heard of Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I like to think that this segment is Mythbusters, because I do like to break myths and what I consider to be internet drivel. If you'll pick up that first thing here, the whole thing about aluminum goes back about 10 years to one internet posting where someone had a video like this, which is the ingredients. So the ingredients hiding in your deodorant. It starts with aluminum, and it's got this big arrow over here pointing to the fact that aluminum may be killing you, and aluminum may be causing you to have cancer. It may be that. So aluminum in deodorants was supposed to go into your skin, goes to your armpit, then from the skin it goes to your lymph node. Most cancers in the upper outer quadrant of the breast spreads to lymph nodes. Therefore, aluminum in deodorants must be causing cancer of the breast, because we started using deodorants about the time the incidence of cancer of the breast began to rise. Well, the truth of the matter is the incidence of cancer began to rise because we had a mammogram and we made more diagnosis. There wasn't any more cancer of the breast. We just were diagnosing it 15 years earlier. And so that was the first tout that aluminum was terrible for you. The second one was that my bride is absolutely convinced that there's stuff in that drink that poisons me, but the can's no good for you. So around the same time, there were some cans where people said there's too much aluminum in your pork and beans that came out of an aluminum can when they switched from tin cans, which there was too much tin can in there. And that was when they began to recognize that there was a disorder that occurred in people that would interfere with their memory just same time, and that's Alzheimer's. So the deal was they must be getting aluminum from their tin cans, and that's causing Alzheimer's disease. Right about the same time, there was some aluminum contamination of the IV fluids used in renal dialysis, and the use of renal dialysis doesn't dialyze out the aluminum, so when somebody was on kidney dialysis for a year or two, the aluminum in their body went up. It then began to cause metabolic problems that was due to the aluminum, so that must mean that aluminum that's in aluminum cans and in your deodorant is causing all of these problems. So that's where all these things came from, all in about a 2 or 3 year period. And then the internet jumped on it, and that you still got that thing up there where they can see it. So that's one of 1,000 that says aluminum's killing you. Okay, go to the next one here. It's got the coffee cup. If you drink a lot of people don't drink tea, but we got a fancy tea place here in Blue Ridge, and people are always saying, "Oh, I don't take shots, I don't take vaccines because they're contaminated with mercury and aluminum." The whole thing about aluminum, if you drink 1 cup of tea, you're going to get more aluminum absorbed than you would get in a vaccine in 1 cup of tea, and over the course of a year, you'd get more aluminum in your diet than you'll get in 10,000 years of using deodorant or drinking out of tin cans. But nobody's got a campaign against banning aluminum in your diet, because you can't. It's in tea and everything else to drink. So at the end of the day, then, the idea that aluminum is causing anything has been put to total rest, and even my wife says I might be up. So that puts you in.
Well, you come close to might be right.
Might be right.
That's pretty good. I mean,
I don't get that out of her much. No,
huh?
You're right. I don't get that out of her much. Okay.
No,
So now we're going to show this one here. All right. This is the known list. It's a much bigger chart on what you're seeing over there, of the carcinogenic chemicals.
Carcinogenic.
Yeah, that's a great word.
I was hoping you didn't want me to read
carcinogenic chemicals that are present in the environment that have been shown experimentally or by epidemiology to be associated with the production of cancer. And so as you go through that list over there, these things basically these could be real, these could be natural, they could be synthetic. They can cause cancer on their own, or there can be something in it that you have to convert to a carcinogen. The easiest way to put that is if you work in a mine and you inhale asbestos, it is directly causing cancer, mesothelioma. The ad 1-800, like you were talking about a few minutes ago. When you smoke a cigarette, the active ingredient in smoke that causes cancer does not cause cancer. You have to have an enzyme in your body that converts that ingredient in smoke to cause the cancer. So that is a pro-carcinogen, and that's why there are people who smoke and everybody in the family gets lung cancer, and the other people who smoke and nobody in the family gets cancer. Some have and some don't have that enzyme, but the point is you don't know that. So these things here that are on this list, and some of the stuff that's been taken out of the food and out of pharmaceuticals and so stuff, are pretty easy to remember. DDT, PCP. Vinyl chloride, some of the fungus, you say all the stuff they're putting on your food. Well, a lot of those have been removed. So these are known to cause cancer. These are up here, these are the chemicals you get from working in a rubber plant or some of the industrial things that cause bladder cancer. But aluminum from tin cans and aluminum from deodorant, not on there. All right, now, I'm not going to try and poke fingers at anybody, but in my generation, when I was studying psychology in college, and that was 1958, there were well-published studies that said if you had more than 2 tattoos, you were psychopathic. And the tattooing that occurred around the period between World War I and in World War II, veterans going overseas got tattooed, right? Mm-hmm. The other guys that got tattooed, they didn't have motorcycle gangs in those days, were gangsters. So if you had a bunch of tattoos, you were more likely to be criminal or whatever. Now, we're coming up to modern day, and the modern people tattoo for totally different reasons. And the percentage of the American population that has tattoos is about 6,000% more than it was at the end of World War II when we had all of these tattooed veterans, because our adolescents are getting stuff on their ankles or they're getting stuff on their wrist. There was a study that was published about 2 or 3 weeks ago about the chemicals that are found in the lymph nodes of autopsied people who have been tattooed. And they have in their lymph nodes, go back to this list, they have copper, chromium, iron, nickel, aluminum, all the things you're sitting here worried about causing cancer and getting from your deodorant, that are in an extremely much higher concentration because they are in tattoo ink. And you put that tattoo ink on you, and then for the rest of your life, that stuff's going to be sitting in your lymph nodes. So nobody has linked tattooing yet to lymph node cancer or something else. But the point is that you got the internet scaring you to death about deodorant. You got the internet scaring you to death about the tin can, when in actuality, drinking a cup of tea or going to getting a tattoo or something will give you more of it than that'll ever give you. And you're not worried about your cup of tea. You're not worried about getting a tattoo. And it really doesn't make any great amount of sense. Does that help?
Doctor,
oh, wait a minute. Hey, one more thing. He asked about breast cancer. So get the last one. So it was specifically linked to a cancer question. The cancer question about putting it on your armpit began with breast cancer being on the upper outer quadrant of the breast and in lymph nodes, and that's where you apply the deodorant. So the things that you know for sure can help you not get cancer of the breast. And if you look at them one more time, it's lean body weight, exercise. See that on there? And that got a thing in there about not using deodorant. And the things you know that will increase your chances of getting cancer are being overweight, alcohol, and genetics. So,
well, this morning
forget about the aluminum.
This morning, Dr. Whaley is myth busting right here on your TV, and we're going to get to the second one.
And we're going to myth bust again.
We're going to myth bust for the second time. Again, we want to thank Georgia Cancer Research Center, affiliated with Northside Hospital, for this segment. I recently had a kidney infection. Someone recommended drinking a beer. The key in that sentence was a beer. Drinking a beer to help flush out my kidneys. Would drinking a beer help to flush my kidneys during the infection, or could it make it worse?
Okay, well, there's two parts to the question. Does flushing the kidneys help during an infection? The answer is yes. So drinking fluids, having a good urinary output, brings the antibiotic. The antibiotic does most of its good through the blood, but some of them do some of it because it gets excreted in the urine. So a good urine output flushes the stuff out, makes your symptoms better. But beer, alcohol going into the bladder, causes irritation and diminishes the effect of the antibiotic within the bladder. Now, you know why they recommend beer to flush your kidneys, right? You know why you make so much, Josh, do you know why you make so much urine when you're drinking beer? It doesn't have to stop on the way through to change color. I do like that one. All right.
Wait a minute, I want to know, is that true, or did you make, did you make that up?
No, that's a Ray Tidman.
Because you have me just focused right in.
Well, that's a Ray Tidman joke.
That was pretty good. I'm like, so it doesn't have to stop to change color.
Yeah, I did that on for Dr. Tidman. All right, now, let's go to the next one. People in India in the Raj period drank gin and tonic because the quinine, well, number one, they liked the gin and they liked the tonic, but the quinine had a retardant effect on the development of malaria. There's actually substantial harm in trying to flush your kidneys with gin and tonic when you've got a bladder infection, because tonic stimulates inflammatory reactions within the bladder, particularly if you've already got an inflammatory reaction going on in the bladder. So if you're going to flush your kidneys, what would you recommend? Well, this came up during the break, and actually cranberry juice on a daily basis retards infections doesn't prevent them, because it is excreted with a lower pH, so it makes your urine a bit more acidic, which makes the bladder less able to support the growth of a bacteria. And that used to be, back in the days before we had some of the new antibiotics, people who had recurrent urinary tract infections were treated with cranberry juice and a drug called mandelamine, which is still available, but nobody uses it anymore. But those two things together, the cranberry juice plus the mandelamine, would lower the pH of the urine and could stop the, this recurrent series of bladder infections, particularly in women, because of the anatomy of a woman who's had several births and has a bladder that's got a pool in it, never completely empties, and they have recurrent urinary tract infections. Men don't generally do that. And so back in the 50s, 60s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, after they'd been treated for the urinary tract infection, we said, get your cranberry juice and take this pill, mandelamine, which is nothing but more cranberry juice, and that'll make your urine more retardant of getting infections. So the basic question was, is making more urine good? And the answer is yes. Is doing it with beer, gin, and tonic good? And the answer is no. But cranberry juice is good. Is that enough of that?
That's good. I'm good with that. I like the cranberry juice. What about let's not go juice crazy this morning. What about pomegranate juice? Pomegranate juice.
We don't know.
I know I had to ask.
We don't know as much about pomegranate juice, but we do know that there's a big industry trying to sell pomegranate juice and make pomegranate juice pills that you buy at the GNC and everything else. It certainly isn't going to hurt you any, but it's got not near as much data that it's good for you as cranberry juice.
Okay. Now, Doctor,
pomegranates are hard to eat.
Well, I used to.
I used to love them. Yeah, but that's you got to.
They're
work.
hard to eat. You got to work. Fingers all stained.
Well, you got to work to get any calories out of pomegranates.
Maybe I should eat.
Eat more pomegranates.
Yeah, easy.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Dr. Whaley, before we close, you always bring something, or there's something going on in the medical field that you like to discuss with the viewers. What do you have for us today?
Well, I think probably the two biggest things that have hit the medical news in the last couple of days are another huge food recall of 300 and something million pounds of ground beef, and then what was it? Duncan Hines. My mother used to really be down on people who used cake mix. They made cakes, but I've never met anybody in years that didn't use some kind of cake mix. So they just recalled tons and tons of cake mix because it's got listeria in it, and I just think we got these scare tactics. There's a ton of foodborne illness, but I don't think you need to worry about your Duncan Hines cakes. And if somebody's going to make you one for Thanksgiving, just let them go ahead and make it. But that was the big one from yesterday.
Well, I won't see you Monday because today's show is Friday, so I won't be able to see you Monday. So let me thank you for your service and how much I appreciate you, and got a lot of respect and appreciation for our members, our veterans, and let's remember that is Monday, Veterans Day.
Oh, one more thing. At 11/11, yeah. I hope that our president gets an hour or two to go off in the corner and maybe have a beer with Putin. Right this minute it's on, and then it's off, and it's on, and then it's off. But they're both going to be at the World War I celebration there. I think it's in London, I believe. And they've put it on, they've taken it off, they put it on and take it off. I really want them to sit down. I'm so much more worried about China than I am about Russia. And I think that there's so many more shared cultural experiences. Russia bore most of the deaths of World War II. World War II still is impacting what's going on to us today, and we have more in common with the Russians than we do with the Chinese, and there's got to be some mutual common ground in there. And I think those two guys are tough as nails, and that they ought to be able to find a way to, like a Georgia guy married to a Georgia Tech woman or something, find a way to get along together. I hope they can. So that's the last thing I'll say about 11/11.
Again, we want to thank Georgia Cancer Research Center, affiliated with Northside Hospital, for this segment of Ask the Doc with Dr. William Whaley every Friday. Now, if you have a question for Dr. Whaley, you can send that to info@fetchernews.com, info@fetchernews.com. Put in the subject line, Ask the Doc, and we will get that to Dr. Whaley and hopefully get it here on the show and get your question answered. We're going to take a brief break. I wonder if the All-Star panel has anything to talk about. I wonder if anything's happened in the last week. What do they think about the Democrats taking over the House? We're going to find out right after these messages.